I'm sure you've caught yourself wondering why you're still broke. You work hard, you're smart, you follow the news and technology, you earn money, you earn a lot more than your parents, but somehow they are happy and have everything, and you don't. You're still broke. In this video, we'll talk about your finances, your salary, your expenses, and we'll review which ones are important and which ones are not. Why are you poorer than others, and how can you become rich and financially independent? Welcome to The Truth About Spending Money. This is not a budgeting lecture. This is not about cutting coffee or canceling joy. This is not about living small. This is about seeing money clearly for the first time. Because the biggest financial mistake most people make is believing that spending is logical. It isn't. Spending is emotional. Spending is automatic. Spending is programmed, and until you understand that, money will always slip through your fingers, no matter how hard you work. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked back at a month and thought, where did it all go? Not one big purchase, not a single disaster, just gone. Bills paid, groceries bought, a few small treats, a few things you deserved. And suddenly, the number is smaller than you expected. That moment, that quiet confusion, that is the invisible leak. Most people don't go broke from one bad decision. They go broke from thousands of unexamined ones. Tiny purchases that don't feel dangerous. Subscriptions you forgot you had. Upgrades that felt reasonable. Convenience that felt harmless. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern spending is designed to feel painless. One tap, one swipe, one click, no friction, no pause, no reflection. Money leaves your life faster than your brain can register the loss. And companies know this. They don't want your money once. They want it habitually. They don't want you to think. They want you to react. Because a thinking consumer is dangerous. A reactive consumer is profitable. So spending became emotional. Subscriptions replaced decisions. Comfort replaced consciousness. And slowly, quietly, your financial future started being decided by habits you never chose. This audiobook is about taking that power back, not by restriction, but by awareness. Because once you see how you spend, you can never unsee it. And when that happens, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I make more money? And start asking the better question, why does my money never stay? In the next chapter, we're going to expose the biggest lie you were taught about spending, the one that keeps intelligent, hard-working people permanently broke, even when their income grows. Because until you understand that lie, every dollar you earn will fight against you instead of working for you. And that's where the real problem begins. Hang on a sec. Hey there. Dear viewers, write in the comments what you'd like us to talk about in the next video. We promise to read all the comments and pick the best and most relevant topics. Thanks. Chapter 2. The biggest lie about spending. Here is the lie. The one almost everyone believes. The one that keeps people trapped no matter how much they earn. The lie is this. If I just budget better, I'll be fine. It sounds responsible, it sounds mature, it sounds logical, and it's incomplete. Because budgeting doesn't fail due to math. It fails because you are not a robot. You don't wake up every morning as a spreadsheet. You wake up as a human. Tired, emotional, influenced, pressured, distracted. And modern spending systems are not built for discipline. They are built to exploit psychology. Budgets assume perfect behavior. Life delivers chaos, unexpected expenses, stressful days, Emotional triggers, social pressure, marketing engineered to bypass logic. That's why most people don't break their budget in big, dramatic ways. They break it quietly. One small exception, one emotional purchase, one moment of convenience, one reward after a long day. And here's what no one tells you. Spending is rarely about the thing you're buying. It's about how you feel when you buy it. Comfort, relief, status, belonging, control, escape. Money becomes emotional regulation. Bad day? Spend. Good day? Celebrate. Bored? Browse. Anxious? Distract. And because these purchases don't look reckless, you don't notice the pattern. But over time, those patterns define your financial life. Think about this. Two people earn the same salary, same city, same bills. One builds wealth, the other stays broke. Not because of intelligence, not because of opportunity, but because one understands spending identity and the other doesn't. Spending is a mirror. It reflects who you think you are and who you're trying to become. Some people spend to feel successful, others spend to become secure, some spend to impress, others spend to invest. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people are spending future freedom to feel temporary relief. They don't realize they are trading tomorrow for today, over and over again. Because the system encourages it. Buy now, pay later, subscribe, upgrade, add convenience, remove friction, and suddenly your income isn't yours anymore. It's pre-spent before you even receive it. This is why raises don't fix financial stress. This is why higher earners are often just as anxious. This is why lifestyle inflation feels invisible until it's too late. Your spending grows to match your income unless you consciously stop it. And stopping doesn't start with cutting expenses. It starts with seeing the lie that money problems are about discipline alone, the lie that spending is purely logical, the lie that budgeting fixes identity-driven behavior. Real change begins when you ask a different question, not, how much can I spend? But, why do I spend this way? Because once you understand why, the how becomes simple. In the next chapter, we're going to uncover the most dangerous spending habit of all, the one that doesn't feel like spending, but quietly controls your entire financial future. Most people never notice it, and that's exactly why it works. Dear viewers, write which city you're from. It's interesting to see which corners of the world are watching our videos. Chapter 3, The Silent Spending Trap. You never notice. There is a type of spending that doesn't feel dangerous. It doesn't feel reckless. It doesn't feel irresponsible. It doesn't even feel like spending. And that's why it's the most powerful trap of all. It's called invisible spending, money that leaves your life quietly, automatically, without decision, without emotion, subscriptions, memberships, auto-renewals, monthly services, just-in-case tools, convenience fees, digital upgrades, small amounts, 10 here, 20 there, 30 you barely remember signing up for. And because none of them hurt on their own, you never question them. But stacked together, they become a silent salary tax, a second rent you don't see, a bill you never consciously agreed to, a leak that drains momentum. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't overspend once. They overspend forever. Because invisible spending doesn't trigger guilt. It doesn't require willpower. It bypasses awareness. And awareness is the only real defense. Think about this. When was the last time you reviewed every single automatic charge in your life? Not guessed, not estimated, actually looked. Most people haven't, because Modern money systems are designed to remove friction from spending, but not from earning. You work hard to earn. You barely notice when money leaves, and companies know this. That's why canceling is hard, but signing up is instant. That's why free trials ask for cards. That's why subscriptions renew automatically. That's why prices are broken into per month. It feels smaller, harmless, manageable, until you add them up. And here's what really matters. Invisible spending doesn't just drain money, it drains optionality. It reduces how much freedom you have when opportunities appear. An investment, a course, a move, a risk worth taking. You tell yourself you can't afford it, not realizing you already are, just not on things that move your life forward. This is how people stay stuck without realizing why. They don't feel broke. They feel busy. They feel committed. They feel locked in. And every month, the cycle repeats. Money comes in, money disappears, nothing changes. Now, here's the shift most people never make. Wealthy people don't obsess over cutting coffee. They obsess over controlling commitments. They protect their future flexibility. They don't ask, "Can I afford this monthly charge?" They ask, "Does this increase my long-term leverage?" If it doesn't build skill, if it doesn't save meaningful time, if it doesn't multiply income, it gets questioned. Not emotionally, strategically, because wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how little of your income is already spoken for. Freedom lives in margin, and invisible spending kills margin quietly. So here's the rule that changes everything. If you don't consciously re-choose an expense every month, it owns you, not the other way around. In the next chapter, we'll expose why most people defend their spending habits. Even when those habits are clearly keeping them broke, it's not stupidity, it's psychology. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. If you appreciate our efforts and our thoughts, subscribe and like this video. We need to show the world that there are many people like us. We must always continue to improve. Chapter 4. Why you defend the habits that keep you broke. If spending badly were just a math problem, no one would be broke. Everyone would budget once, fix the numbers, and move on. But money doesn't fail people because of math. It fails them because of identity. Here's the truth most people never face. You don't protect your spending habits because they're logical. You protect them because they feel like you. Your lifestyle isn't just what you buy. It's who you believe you are. Your routines, your comforts, your rewards, your sense of normal. And anytime something threatens that identity, your brain fights back. This is why people get defensive when money is questioned. Not curious, not reflective, defensive. You don't understand my situation. I deserve this. It's not that much. I work hard. Life is short. None of those statements are about numbers. They're about self-justification because deep down, your brain is trying to protect emotional safety. Here's what's really happening. Spending gives instant emotional relief. Saving requires delayed identity change. And humans are wired to protect the present self, even at the expense of the future one. That's why people will fight harder to keep a $300 monthly habit than to build a $300,000 future. It's not stupidity, it's comfort addiction. Every purchase reinforces a story. This is how I live. This is what I enjoy. This is what people like me do. So when you question the spending, you're questioning the story. And stories feel personal. That's why budgeting advice fails when it sounds like punishment. Cut this. Stop that. Don't enjoy yourself. Your brain hears, you are losing something. Wealthy thinkers reframe it differently. They don't ask, what am I giving up? They ask, what am I buying with this sacrifice? Future freedom, time ownership, reduced stress, choice. They emotionally attach to the outcome, not the expense. This is the mental shift that separates people who stay broke from people who escape. The broke mindset protects the present lifestyle. The wealthy mindset protects the future self. Now, here's where it gets dangerous. Most people don't even realize they're defending habits. They think they're being realistic. But realism without direction is just stagnation. Look closely at your reactions. When you hear advice about money, do you feel curious or irritated? Curiosity means growth is possible. Irritation means identity is being threatened. And identity fights harder than logic ever will. This is why motivation alone doesn't change spending. You can't willpower your way out of habits tied to who you think you are. You must replace the identity from I'm someone who needs this to feel okay to I'm someone who delays comfort to build power. That's not deprivation. That's evolution. In the next chapter, we'll break down the biggest lie ever sold about money, that controlling spending means living smaller. The truth? The people who master spending don't live smaller. They live lighter. And that changes everything. Please like and subscribe if you want a better future. A better future for your children, your family, and yourself. It's very difficult to achieve success today, but I'm sure you'll succeed. All you have to do is learn and discover new things. Dear friend, you're not here by accident. What brought you to this video today? Chapter 5. The myth that controlling spending means living small. Most people reject financial discipline for one simple reason. They believe it shrinks their life. They imagine gray days, no joy, no freedom, no spontaneity. They picture a life stripped of pleasure. That image is a lie, and it's one of the most expensive lies ever sold. Because the truth is this: uncontrolled spending makes life smaller. Controlled spending makes life lighter. There's a massive difference. Living small means denying joy forever. Living light means removing unnecessary weight. Right now, your money isn't buying freedom. It's buying clutter, mental clutter, emotional clutter, time clutter, obligation clutter. Every unnecessary purchase adds weight. Another bill, another commitment, another dependency. And slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes heavy. Heavy to maintain, heavy to escape, heavy to change. That's why people feel trapped even when they earn more. They don't own more life. They own more liabilities. Wealthy thinkers see spending through a different lens. They don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, does this add lightness or weight? Lightness gives you options. Weight steals them. A car payment isn't just money. It's pressure. A subscription isn't just convenience. It's obligation. An impulse buy isn't just a treat. It's a leak. And leaks don't sink ships immediately. They sink them slowly. This is why people feel exhausted around money, not because they don't earn enough, but because their financial life is bloated. Too many small drains pulling energy away from big goals. Now, here's the reframe that changes everything. Discipline isn't about removing joy. It's about redirecting it from I feel good right now to I feel powerful long term. That shift feels uncomfortable at first because short-term pleasure is loud. Long-term freedom is quiet. But quiet doesn't mean weak. Quiet is strategic. Quiet is intentional. Quiet builds leverage. Think about it. The most powerful people don't look rushed. They don't look desperate. They don't look stressed. They move slowly because they've removed financial noise. They don't chase dopamine hits through spending. They've trained their brain to feel satisfaction from progress, not purchases. And once you experience that shift, even briefly, you never want to go back because progress feels cleaner than consumption. This is why the goal isn't to spend less. The goal is to spend consciously, to align every dollar with direction. When money has a job, it stops leaking. When money has purpose, it stops controlling you. Most people never feel rich because their money has no mission. It arrives, it disappears, and they repeat the cycle. The wealthy break that loop. They give money a destination before it arrives, savings with intent, investments with timelines, spending with boundaries. That's not restriction, that's command, and command is freedom. In the next chapter, we'll expose one of the most dangerous habits keeping people broke, spending as a response to emotion. Because until you control emotional spending, no budget will ever save you. The topic of this video was chosen by you, our viewers. In most of our videos, we remind you that you can write interesting topics you would like to hear about in the comments. We take the most interesting ones into consideration. Today's video topic was suggested by one of our viewers in the comments. Lainey, thank you for this theme. If you want us to cover a topic that interests you, write it in the comments. This will help us make videos on topics that are interesting to you, our viewers. Chapter 6, Emotional Spending, the Silent Saboteur. Most people don't spend money logically. They spend it emotionally. They don't open their wallet because they need something. They open it because they feel something. Stress, boredom, loneliness, frustration, insecurity, reward seeking after a hard day. And here's the dangerous part. Emotional spending feels justified in the moment. I deserve this. I've worked hard. It's not that expensive. I'll figure it out later. Later is where the damage lives. Because money spent emotionally is money spent unconsciously. It bypasses strategy. It bypasses intention. It bypasses future you. This is why budgets fail. Not because people don't understand numbers, but because they haven't learned to regulate emotion. Every impulse purchase is an emotional reflex, a reaction, not a decision. And reactions always cost more than decisions. Think about it. How many times have you bought something not because it improved your life, but because it improved your mood? How often did that mood last? Minutes, hours, a day? And how long did the financial consequence last? Weeks, months, sometimes years. That imbalance is what keeps people stuck. Short pleasure, long pain. Wealthy individuals understand this early. Money amplifies emotional discipline or emotional chaos. If you can't manage feelings without spending, money won't free you. It will expose you. More income doesn't solve emotional habits. It just funds them at a higher level. That's why some people earn more and feel poorer. Their emotions spend faster than their income grows. So what's the solution? Not suppression. Awareness. You don't eliminate emotion, you delay reaction. There's a critical pause wealthy thinkers use, often unconsciously. Before spending, they ask, what am I really trying to fix right now? Not, do I want this? But, what feeling am I responding to? That single question changes everything. Because once you name the emotion, it loses control. You realize this purchase isn't solving the real problem. A coffee won't fix exhaustion. A gadget won't fix boredom. A luxury item won't fix insecurity. And once you see that, the urge weakens. Another powerful shift. Replace emotional spending with emotional regulation rituals. Instead of buying relief, create relief. Movement, silence, writing, breathing, distance from screens, delayed gratification. Most people were never taught how to process discomfort, so they spend to escape it. The wealthy train themselves to sit with discomfort briefly because they know it passes. Impulse fades, regret lingers. And here's the truth most won't tell you. The ability to delay a purchase is the same muscle required to delay gratification in investing, business, and wealth building. If you can't wait 24 hours to buy something you don't need, how will you wait years for compounding to work? The habit is identical. Control the small impulses, and you gain control over the big outcomes. This is where financial maturity begins. Not with spreadsheets, with self-awareness. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how marketing hijacks your brain to turn emotions into profit, and how to defend yourself without becoming paranoid or deprived. Because once you see the game, you stop losing it. Chapter 7. How the system trains you to spend without thinking. You were not born careless with money. You were trained, conditioned, programmed quietly, consistently, and relentlessly. From the moment you could recognize a logo, the system began shaping your spending behavior. Bright colors, simple promises, emotional stories, artificial urgency. Marketing doesn't sell products, it sells feelings. Belonging, status, relief, confidence, escape. And it does it so well that most people don't even realize they're being influenced. They believe they're choosing. In reality, they're responding. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Modern marketing understands your brain better than you do. It knows your attention span is short, your willpower is limited, your emotions override logic under pressure. That's why everything is designed to feel urgent. Limited time, only today. Last chance, low stock. Scarcity isn't always real, but the anxiety is. Your brain evolved to react quickly to perceived loss. Marketers exploit that instinct because a rushed decision is rarely a rational one, and rushed decisions are profitable. Notice something else. Most offers don't focus on what you get. They focus on what you miss if you don't buy. Fear of missing out is more powerful than desire. That's not accidental. Then there's social proof. Everyone's buying this. Trending now. Bestseller. Your brain equates popularity with safety. If others chose it, it must be right. This shortcut saves mental energy, but costs money. Now, layer in personalization. Algorithms don't just show you what's popular. They show you what you are most likely to buy when you're emotionally vulnerable. Late at night, after stress, during boredom, when motivation is low. This isn't coincidence, it's optimization, and the system doesn't care whether you become wealthy. It cares whether you remain predictable. Because predictable behavior is profitable. So how do you fight something this sophisticated? Not with paranoia, with distance. Wealthy individuals don't try to outthink the system emotionally. They reduce exposure. They unsubscribe. They mute notifications. They limit screen time. They delay purchases. Distance creates clarity. Time dissolves urgency. A rule many financially disciplined people follow. Never buy the same day you're exposed to an offer. Sleep on it. If it's still valuable tomorrow, it will still exist. Another principle, if something requires pressure to sell, it's probably not aligned with long-term value. True value doesn't rush you. It waits. And here's a critical reframe. Every advertisement you resist strengthens your financial discipline. Every impulse you don't act on builds self-trust. You're not missing out. You're opting out of manipulation. That's power. Because once you stop spending automatically, money starts accumulating quietly. And accumulation changes your relationship with choice. In the next chapter, we'll break down why budgeting alone fails and what actually creates lasting financial control without feeling restricted. Because freedom isn't about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes with intention. Chapter 8. Why budgeting fails and what actually works. Most people think their money problem exists because they don't budget hard enough. They're wrong. Budgeting doesn't fail because people are lazy. It fails because it fights human psychology instead of working with it. A traditional budget assumes you will consistently make rational decisions in an emotional world. That assumption collapses under stress, fatigue, pressure, and desire. You can plan perfectly on Sunday and break everything by Wednesday night. Because willpower is not infinite, and discipline, when forced, creates rebellion. That's why many people budget for months, then quit entirely. They feel restricted, deprived, controlled, and eventually they snap. Overspending becomes emotional compensation. So what do financially disciplined people do differently? They don't focus on tracking every dollar. They design systems that make good behavior automatic. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" they ask, "Is this already built into my system?" Here's the shift that changes everything. Money management is not about restriction, it's about structure. Wealthy individuals simplify decisions. They remove friction from saving and investing. They add friction to spending. For example, money is automatically routed the moment it arrives. Income is split before emotions get involved. One account for bills, one for long-term wealth, one for guilt-free spending. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't rely on motivation. The system does the work. Because what's left in your spending account feels safe to use. No guilt, no stress, no internal debate. That's why many people who earn more still feel broke. Their money touches their emotions before it touches structure. Another powerful concept. Pay yourself first is not advice. It's architecture. Savings shouldn't be optional. They should be invisible. If you only save what's left, you'll always save leftovers, and leftovers don't build wealth. Systems also protect you from lifestyle inflation. When income increases, spending naturally wants to rise. But when percentages stay fixed, wealth grows silently. This is why two people earning the same salary live completely different financial realities. One reacts, the other automates. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Budgeting feels responsible, but systems feel boring. And boring is powerful because boring decisions compound. Exciting purchases don't. Wealth isn't built through dramatic financial moves. It's built through quiet consistency. And consistency thrives on systems, not motivation. In the next chapter, we'll expose the emotional triggers behind overspending and how to neutralize them without becoming cold or joyless. Because money mastery doesn't require discipline alone, it requires emotional awareness. And once you control that, money stops controlling you. Dear viewer, please write in the comments what interested you most in the video. This will help us improve our videos. Chapter 9. The emotional triggers behind overspending. Overspending is rarely about money. It's about emotion. If money decisions were purely logical, most people would already be wealthy. But money lives in the emotional part of the brain, not the rational one. That's why the same person who carefully compares prices at the grocery store can impulsively spend hundreds online at midnight. The trigger isn't need, it's relief. Overspending is often a response to pressure, boredom, insecurity, or fatigue. Money becomes a tool to change how we feel, not how we live. And until you understand that, no strategy will stick. Let's break down the most common emotional triggers. Stress spending. After a hard day, buying something feels like reclaiming control. Boredom spending. When life feels empty, purchases create stimulation. Comparison spending. Seeing others win makes you want to prove you're not behind. Reward spending. I deserve this becomes justification instead of reflection. None of these are about value. They're about identity, about self-worth, about escaping discomfort for a moment. The problem is not the purchase, it's the pattern. Every emotional purchase trains your brain to associate spending with relief. And the brain loves shortcuts. So next time stress hits, it reaches for the fastest solution it knows: your wallet. Here's the critical insight most people miss. You don't need more self-control. You need a pause. Wealthy thinkers insert space between emotion and action. They don't suppress desire, they delay it. A simple rule used by many financially disciplined individuals. If it's emotional, it waits 24 hours. Not to punish yourself, but to let the emotion fade. When the feeling fades, clarity returns, and most purchases lose their power. Another powerful tactic. Name the feeling before you spend. Ask yourself, what am I actually trying to feel right now? Relief, validation, comfort, excitement. Once you name it, spending loses its magic, because awareness breaks automatic behavior. This isn't about becoming cold or joyless. It's about choosing joy intentionally. There's nothing wrong with spending on things that genuinely enhance your life. The problem is spending to avoid your life. Wealth grows when money stops being emotional medicine and starts becoming a strategic tool. Here's a shift that changes everything. Your emotions don't need money. They need attention. Most people spend because they don't sit with discomfort. But discomfort is temporary. Debt is not. When you learn to tolerate emotional waves without reacting financially, you gain power most people never develop. And that power compounds faster than interest ever could. In the next chapter, we'll talk about why cheap habits keep people poor and how spending more in the right areas can actually make you wealthier. Because frugality without strategy is just another trap, and real wealth is never built by accident. Chapter 10. Why cheap habits keep you poor. Being cheap and being wealthy are not the same thing. In fact, they often work against each other. Most people believe saving money means spending as little as possible on everything. They clip coupons, chase discounts, delay purchases endlessly, and pride themselves on not wasting money. Yet somehow they stay broke. Why? Because cheap habits focus on price, not value. And value is what creates wealth. Cheap thinking asks, how can I pay less? Wealth thinking asks, how can this pay me back? This difference is subtle, but life-changing. Cheap habits keep you stuck reacting to money. Wealth habits put you in control of it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people spend too little in the areas that matter most and too much in areas that don't. They underinvest in skills, health, time-saving tools, education, systems, and overinvest in convenience spending, status items, short-term pleasure, temporary relief. Cheap habits often feel responsible, but responsibility without strategy becomes limitation. For example, buying the cheapest shoes every year feels smart until you realize replacing them annually costs more than buying one quality pair that lasts a decade. Skipping education feels frugal until you realize ignorance costs far more than tuition ever could. Avoiding tools that save time feels disciplined until years pass and you're still trading hours for money. Wealthy people are not reckless spenders. They are intentional spenders. They spend aggressively on anything that increases earning power, protects energy, multiplies time, improves decision-making, and they cut ruthlessly everything else. This is where most people get trapped. They penny pinch on growth and splurge on escape. They save money, but waste years. Here's a mindset shift that changes behavior. Money saved is finite. Money invested in yourself compounds. Every dollar you put into skills, clarity, health, or leverage doesn't disappear. It transforms. Cheap habits keep you playing defense. Wealth habits build offense. Ask yourself this question honestly. What am I avoiding paying for today that will cost me 10 times more tomorrow? Often it's learning something new, hiring help, upgrading tools, taking care of your body, buying back time. Another dangerous cheap habit is false independence. I'll do it myself. I don't need help. I'll figure it out eventually. This mindset feels strong, but it slows growth. Wealth is rarely built alone. It's built through leverage, and leverage almost always requires investment, time, money, or trust, usually all three. The goal is not to spend more. The goal is to spend better, to stop asking, is this cheap? And start asking, is this useful? Is this scalable? Is this aligned with where I want to go? Wealth grows when your spending matches your future, not your fears. In the next chapter, we'll expose the invisible money leaks most people never notice, the ones draining their finances quietly month after month without pain until it's too late. Because it's not the big mistakes that keep people poor. It's the invisible ones. Friend, write your opinion on this topic in the comments. Do you agree with us or not? I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Chapter 11. The Invisible Money Leaks, Draining Your Life. Most people don't lose money loudly. They lose it quietly, not through one dramatic mistake, but through hundreds of invisible leaks that feel harmless in the moment and devastating over time. These leaks don't trigger panic. They trigger comfort. And comfort is expensive. Here's the danger. When money leaves slowly, you don't feel pain. And when you don't feel pain, you don't change. Invisible money leaks are the reason many people say, I make decent money, but I don't know where it goes. It goes where your awareness doesn't. Let's expose the biggest culprits. The first leak is automatic spending without evaluation. Subscriptions you forgot about, services you barely use, apps renewing silently. Each one feels small, but stacked together, they become a second rent payment. The problem isn't the subscription. The problem is unconscious permission. Every automatic charge is a decision you stopped revisiting. Wealthy people audit their money the same way pilots check instruments, regularly, calmly, and without emotion. They don't shame themselves. They adjust. The second leak is emotional spending. Buying things not because you need them, but because you feel tired, bored, stressed, or behind. This kind of spending doesn't buy value. It buys relief, and relief never lasts. You feel better for an hour, then worse for a month. The pattern repeats. Money disappears, and the habit strengthens. Wealthy people delay emotional spending not because they lack desire, but because they understand timing. They pause, they breathe, they ask, is this solving a problem or numbing one? Most purchases fail that test. The third leak is convenience addiction. Paying extra to avoid discomfort, food delivery instead of cooking, rides instead of walking, impulse buys instead of planning. Convenience feels harmless, but convenience compounds in the wrong direction. It trains you to pay more for less effort and eventually less progress. Wealth isn't built by avoiding effort. It's built by choosing where effort matters. The fourth leak is status spending disguised as confidence. Clothes to impress people you don't know. Gadgets to signal success you haven't built yet. Experiences posted for validation, not memory. This spending doesn't elevate you. It anchors you to comparison. Wealthy people don't buy status. They buy freedom. And freedom doesn't need an audience. The fifth and most dangerous leak is not tracking reality. If you don't look at your numbers control you. Avoidance feels peaceful, but it creates blindness, and blindness keeps you reactive. Wealth begins with clarity, not obsession, not anxiety, just honesty. Once a week, once a month. Look, adjust, repeat. Here's the truth most people never hear. You don't need more money to stop leaks. You need more awareness. Awareness turns chaos into control, and control creates momentum. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how rich people structure spending not to restrict life, but to expand it. Because money discipline isn't about saying no to everything, it's about saying yes to the right future. Chapter 12, How the Rich Structure Spending to Buy Freedom. Here's the mistake most people make about rich people. They think the wealthy spend more because they have more. The truth is the opposite. The wealthy have more because they spend differently. Not less joy, not less comfort, not less life, just less waste. Rich people don't ask, can I afford this? They ask, what does this cost me long term? Because every dollar has two prices. The first price is the number on the receipt. The second price is what that dollar could have become. Most people only see the first. The wealthy see both. Here's how their spending is structured. First, they pay themselves before life gets paid, not leftovers, not whatever is left at the end of the month. First, before bills, before entertainment, before comfort. Savings, investing, future capital, handled automatically. Not because they're disciplined heroes, but because they removed decision fatigue. Once the future is funded, spending becomes guilt-free. That's the secret. Most people feel anxious spending because they don't know if they're sabotaging tomorrow. Rich people don't feel that fear because tomorrow is already handled. Second, they separate survival from enjoyment. Rent, food, transportation, utilities. These are treated like infrastructure, not emotion. No lifestyle inflation, no drama, just efficiency. Then enjoyment is layered on top, intentionally. Trips, experiences, upgrades, planned, chosen, earned, not impulsive. When enjoyment is planned, it's richer. When it's impulsive, it's forgettable. Third, they cap lifestyle, not ambition. Most people increase spending every time income rises. Rich people don't. They increase investments. They let lifestyle lag behind income, sometimes for years, not out of fear, out of patience. They understand that freedom grows faster than comfort, and once freedom is secured, comfort becomes permanent. Fourth, they buy time, not things. Anything that gives time back, systems, tools, education, leverage, gets priority. Anything that demands more time, maintenance, clutter, distractions, gets questioned. Rich people don't want stuff. They want space, mental space, time space, decision space, and money is a tool to create that space. Fifth, they review spending like a strategist, not a critic. No shame, no self-hate, no emotional spiral, just questions. What worked? What didn't? What felt good? What felt empty? What moved me closer? What delayed me? Then they adjust. This is how wealth quietly grows, not through restriction, through alignment. Spending becomes a reflection of values, not impulses, and once spending aligns with values, money stops feeling heavy. In the next chapter, we'll confront one of the most dangerous lies in modern finance, the idea that budgeting is about control, because real budgeting isn't about limits, it's about liberation. And once you see it clearly, you'll never manage money the same way again. Chapter 13. Why budgeting fails most people and what actually works. Most people hear the word budget and immediately feel resistance, tight chest, loss of freedom, restriction, punishment, because budgeting has been taught as control, as limitation, as a financial diet where joy is removed and discipline is forced. That's why most budgets fail. Not because people are lazy, but because the system is built on the wrong psychology. Here's the truth no one explains. Budgeting isn't about telling money where it can't go. It's about telling money where it must go. Most people try to control spending from the outside. The wealthy design systems from the inside. Let's break this down. Traditional budgeting says, don't spend more than X. That turns every purchase into a battle. Every coffee becomes guilt. Every night out becomes anxiety. Every small pleasure feels like sabotage. And eventually, rebellion happens. The budget breaks. Shame follows. Then avoidance. And the cycle repeats. But the wealthy don't budget like this. They don't micromanage. They automate priorities. Instead of tracking every dollar, they lock in outcomes. Here's how it actually works. First, they reverse the budget. Most people budget what's left after spending. Rich people decide what stays before spending: investments, savings, taxes, long-term reserves, handled automatically, direct deposits, auto transfers, scheduled contributions, no willpower required. Once that's done, the rest is free, not tracked obsessively, not judged, spent consciously. This is why wealthy people don't feel stressed about money day to day. Their future is already funded. Second, they budget categories, not transactions. Instead of tracking every purchase, they assign broad lanes: living, growth, enjoyment, freedom. Each lane has a purpose, and within those lanes, flexibility exists. No guilt, no micromanagement, no constant self-negotiation. When money has a role, spending feels intentional. Third, they build anti-budgets. This is the most powerful concept. An anti-budget doesn't limit spending, it limits decisions. Fewer accounts, fewer cards, fewer choices. Money flows automatically where it needs to go. What remains is spendable without stress. This reduces mental friction, and friction is what kills consistency. Fourth, they budget energy, not just money. Here's the part most systems miss. If your budget is exhausting, it won't last. The wealthy design systems that feel light. Simple dashboards, few rules, clear defaults. Because they know consistency beats perfection. A simple system followed for 10 years beats a perfect system abandoned in 3 months. Fifth, they review monthly, not daily. Daily tracking creates obsession. Monthly review creates clarity. Once a month, they step back and ask, is my money aligned with my life? Did spending reflect values? Did this month move me forward? Then they adjust. No shame, no overcorrection, no emotional reaction, just calibration. This is how money becomes calm, predictable, supportive, empowering. Budgeting stops feeling like control and starts feeling like direction. In the next chapter, we're going to expose one of the most dangerous financial traps hiding in plain sight, the illusion of affordability. Because the question, can I afford this, has quietly kept millions broke. And once you see why, you'll never ask it again. Chapter 14, the affordability illusion that keeps you broke. Can I afford this? It sounds like a responsible question, smart, careful, mature. But for most people, this single question has quietly destroyed their financial future. Because affordability is not what you think it is. Affordability doesn't ask whether something fits into your life. It only asks whether it fits into your moment. And that difference is everything. Most people define affordability like this. If I can pay for it right now without going broke, I can afford it. That logic feels safe, but it's the exact thinking that keeps people stuck. Because affordability ignores opportunity cost. It ignores future momentum. It ignores compounding. It ignores the silent trade you're making with your future self. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can afford almost anything once. You just can't afford the pattern. One expensive dinner doesn't make you broke. A lifestyle built on impulse does. One financed purchase doesn't destroy wealth. Repeated payments steal your future quietly. Affordability focuses on the price. Wealth focuses on the path. Let's say you buy something for convenience, or status, or relief. You don't feel pain immediately. The bank account still has money. Bills are paid. Life continues. So your brain says, see, that was fine. But what you don't see is what didn't happen. The investment that didn't get funded, the emergency buffer that didn't grow, the compounding that never started. This is how people stay broke while earning more every year. They upgrade expenses faster than assets. Affordability thinking asks, can I pay for this? Wealth thinking asks, what does this delay? Because every dollar has two jobs, what it buys today and what it could become tomorrow. Most people only see the first job. That's the trap. Here's how the wealthy think differently. They don't ask if something's affordable. They ask if it's aligned. Aligned with goals. Aligned with timelines. Aligned with identity. They don't ask, can I afford this car? They ask, does this accelerate or slow my freedom? Does this increase my options or reduce them? Does this make my future easier or harder? If the answer is harder, they pass, even if they have the money. This is why wealthy people sometimes look cheap. They're not cheap, they're strategic. They understand that freedom is fragile in the early stages. Every unnecessary commitment increases pressure. Pressure forces bad decisions. Bad decisions delay wealth. Another dangerous illusion is monthly affordability. If the payment is small, it's fine. No, monthly payments are how wealth leaks. Small payments multiplied by time equal massive loss. $300 a month doesn't feel like much, but over 10 years, that's $36,000. Invested instead, it's far more. And worse, payments reduce flexibility. They lock your future into fixed obligations. The wealthy protect flexibility like oxygen, because flexibility creates opportunity. Opportunity creates leverage. Leverage creates wealth. So here's the rule you won't hear often. If it reduces your future choices, it's expensive, no matter the price. Affordability is about survival. Alignment is about freedom. In the next chapter, we'll break down the emotional spending loop, the invisible cycle that turns stress into purchases, purchases into guilt, and guilt into more spending. Once you see the loop, you can finally break it. Chapter 15, The Emotional Spending Loop and How It Controls You. You don't spend money because you need things. You spend money because you feel something. Stress, boredom, loneliness, reward, escape, control. Money, for most people, is not a financial tool. It's an emotional regulator. And once you see that, everything changes. Here's the loop that quietly runs in the background of millions of lives. Pressure builds. Emotion rises. Spending relieves. Guilt follows. Pressure increases. Repeat. This loop is not accidental. It's learned, conditioned, reinforced. Think about it. Bad day at work? You deserve something? Feeling behind in life? You buy something to feel ahead temporarily? Feeling powerless? You spend to feel in control. Feeling invisible? You buy something that gets noticed? Spending becomes therapy. But unlike real therapy, it doesn't heal the problem. It just delays it. And delays are expensive. The most dangerous part of emotional spending is that it feels logical in the moment. You justify it, rationalize it, minimize it. It's not that much. I'll work hard. I'll make it back. Everyone does this, and everyone stays broke. Because emotional spending isn't about the item, it's about the relief. That relief teaches your brain something powerful. Money equals emotional comfort. Once that association forms, money stops being neutral. It becomes reactive, and reactive money never builds wealth. Here's what most people don't realize. Every emotional purchase trains your brain. You're building a habit loop. Emotion to spend to relief. The brain loves relief, so it remembers the shortcut. Next time the emotion appears, the urge arrives faster, stronger, more automatic. That's why people say, I don't even know where my money goes. It goes exactly where your emotions tell it to. The wealthy break this loop early, not because they don't feel emotions, but because they don't let emotions spend. They separate feeling from action. They insert space, pause, distance. Here's the rule they follow, consciously or not. Never spend to change how you feel. Spend to change systems. Spend to remove friction. Spend to buy time. Spend to create leverage. But never to escape discomfort. Because discomfort is information. It's telling you something is misaligned. And spending over it silences the signal. The moment you stop emotional spending, something uncomfortable happens. The feelings don't disappear. They surface. Stress doesn't get numbed. Boredom doesn't get filled. Insecurity doesn't get masked. And that's the point. Because now you can address the real cause. Maybe the job is draining. Maybe the schedule is broken. Maybe the goals are unclear. Maybe the identity is fragile. Spending never fixes those, but awareness can. Here's a powerful practice. Before any non-essential purchase, ask one question. What am I trying to feel right now? If the answer is relief, validation, escape, or control, don't buy. Wait. Not forever. Just wait. Give the emotion time to pass. Most impulses fade within hours. Wealth grows in those hours. Another truth most people avoid. Emotional spending increases as income increases, if awareness doesn't. That's why raises don't create wealth. They create upgraded coping mechanisms, better restaurants, bigger distractions, more expensive escapes. Same loop, higher price. That's why discipline matters more than income. Control beats cash. Awareness beats raises. If this chapter feels uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is the beginning of control. In the next chapter, we'll expose the reward culture lie, why constantly rewarding yourself keeps you stuck at the same financial level, no matter how hard you work. This is where most people lose years. Chapter 16, The Reward Trap That Keeps You Poor. You were taught something that sounds healthy, but quietly destroys wealth. Reward yourself. Work hard to reward yourself. Survive a tough week to reward yourself. Feel stressed to reward yourself. It sounds harmless. It sounds motivating. It sounds fair. But here's the truth no one tells you. If you constantly reward yourself, you train yourself to stay exactly where you are. Rewards are supposed to mark progress. But most people reward effort, not results. And effort without results keeps you broke. Think about how this plays out. You grind all week. You're tired. You feel like you earned something. So you spend. Not because it moves you forward, but because it helps you recover from a system that's draining you. That's not a reward. That's compensation. And compensation keeps the system alive. The reward trap works like this. Work to exhaustion, to spending, to temporary relief, to repeat. No leverage, no compounding, no escape, just cycles. Here's the uncomfortable question. If your work truly moved you toward freedom, why would you need so many rewards to survive it? Rewards become emotional anesthesia. They make an unaligned life tolerable, and tolerable is the enemy of change. The wealthy don't eliminate rewards. They delay them. They don't reward effort. They reward outcomes, milestones, assets built, systems installed, skills mastered, and most importantly, time bought back. Their rewards come after leverage is created, not before. That delay changes everything. Delayed reward trains patience. Patience trains discipline. Discipline builds wealth. Instant reward trains impulse. Impulse trains consumption. Consumption builds dependency. That's why people feel stuck even when they work harder each year. They're rewarding themselves for surviving, not progressing. Here's a powerful reframe. Stop asking, what can I buy to feel better? Start asking, what can I build so I don't need to escape? One builds comfort, the other builds freedom. Another hidden danger of reward culture, it inflates your baseline. What once felt like a treat becomes normal. What once felt special becomes expected. Then the reward has to grow. Bigger meals, nicer things, more expensive distractions. But income rarely grows at the same pace. That's how lifestyle creep disguises itself as self-care. Real self-care isn't spending, it's structure. It's systems that reduce stress permanently. It's habits that remove decision fatigue. It's finances that don't depend on mood. True reward is waking up without dread. True reward is choice. True reward is silence from money anxiety. And those rewards don't come from purchases, they come from alignment. Here's a rule that changes everything. If a reward doesn't increase your future freedom, it's not a reward. It's a delay. Delay costs time. Time costs options. Options cost freedom. In the next chapter, we'll dismantle another dangerous myth. Why budgeting alone doesn't fix spending problems, and what actually does. Most people budget harder. The wealthy design smarter. Chapter 17. Why budgeting fails and what actually works. Most people think they have a money problem. What they really have is a decision problem. So they turn to budgets, spreadsheets, percentages, rules, and for a few weeks, it works. Until life happens, until stress hits, until emotions rise, until discipline fades, then the budget fails. But the truth is uncomfortable. Budgeting didn't fail. It was never designed to succeed on its own. Budgeting assumes a rational human, but humans are emotional first, logical second. You don't overspend because you don't know the rules. You overspend because money decisions are tied to identity, stress, habits, and environment. Budgeting tries to control behavior after temptation appears. The wealthy remove temptation before it shows up. That's the difference. Here's why traditional budgeting collapses. It requires constant willpower. It demands daily decision-making. It fights habits instead of replacing them. And willpower is a terrible long-term strategy. Willpower is finite. Systems are not. Wealthy people don't ask, "Can I afford this?" They ask, "Is this even an option in my system?" Most purchases never reach their conscious mind because the system filters them out. That's the real secret. They don't resist spending, they design spending paths. Let's break this down. A budget says, don't spend more than X. A system says, you never see the money that could be misspent. One relies on self-control. The other relies on structure. Which one survives stress? Exactly. Here's what actually works instead of budgeting. Automation, friction, defaults. Automation moves money without asking you. Friction makes bad decisions inconvenient. Defaults quietly guide behavior. For example, money leaves your account automatically before you can touch it. Savings aren't optional. Investments aren't debated. Bills are handled. Leftover money is guilt-free because the important moves already happened. That's not budgeting. That's architecture. Another reason budgeting fails? It focuses on restriction instead of direction. People feel deprived. Deprivation creates rebellion. Rebellion creates spending spikes, then guilt, then restart, then repeat. It's a loop. Wealthy systems don't feel restrictive. They feel inevitable. You don't fight them. You flow through them. Your job becomes simple. Live inside the system. And here's the biggest shift. You don't track everything. You track the few decisions that matter: income growth, fixed expenses, asset contributions. Everything else is noise. Obsessing over coffee purchases while ignoring income leverage is how people stay broke while feeling responsible. Precision on the wrong details is still failure. Now let's address the deeper issue. Spending problems are rarely about money. They're about emotional regulation. People spend to soothe, escape, reward, belong, feel control. No budget fixes that. But systems can redirect it. Instead of spending to feel progress, you build things that create progress automatically. Instead of buying relief, you remove stressors at the source. Instead of tracking pennies, you redesign your financial life. Here's a powerful question to replace budgeting. What decisions can I make once that pay me every month afterward? That's leverage. That's wealth thinking. In the next chapter, we confront the final illusion, the belief that more income alone will fix everything. It won't, and understanding why is the last step to breaking free. Chapter 18, The Real Way Out, the money truth that changes everything. If more income alone created wealth, most people would already be rich. But they aren't. Because money doesn't change people. It reveals them. Give more money to the same habits, and you don't fix the problem, you magnify it. That's why raises disappear. That's why bonuses vanish. That's why lottery winners go broke. Income without structure is just fuel poured onto an unbuilt engine. And here is the truth few people want to hear. You don't escape being broke by earning more. You escape by becoming someone who knows what money is for. Money is not for spending. Money is not for impressing. Money is not for comfort. Money is for control. Control over time. Control over choices. Control over stress. Control over your future. Everything you've heard in this audiobook leads to one realization. Wealth isn't a number. It's a position where money obeys you instead of the other way around. And that position is built quietly, daily, systematically, not with hacks, not with luck, not with dramatic moves, but with alignment. Alignment between how you think, how you spend, how you save, how you invest, and how you live. Most people never align these. They operate in conflict. They want freedom, but by pressure. They want peace, but fund chaos. They want security, but choose comfort. Wealth requires integrity, not moral integrity, financial integrity. Doing what you know works, even when no one sees it, even when it's boring, even when it's slow. That's why the rich don't look rich at first. They look ordinary, controlled, calm, because their life is built on systems, not stress. Here's the final shift that changes everything. Stop asking, how do I make more money? Start asking, how do I make money unnecessary for my peace? That question changes behavior. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop reacting, you start building. You build buffers, you build margins, you build assets, you build time. And one day, without a dramatic moment, without a viral success, without applause, you realize something quietly powerful. Money no longer controls your decisions. You do. That's when you've won. Not when you're rich on paper, but when you're rich in options. If this audiobook changed how you see money, share it with someone who's still trapped in the old rules. And tell us in the comments, what was the one idea that shifted your thinking the most? What topic should we break down next? Saving, investing, income, or psychology? This isn't the end. It's the beginning of playing the money game with clarity. And now, you finally know how it really works. Last one, chapter 19, The Silent Wealth Test, Who You Become When No One Is Watching. Before money ever changes your life, it tests you, quietly, relentlessly, every single day, not with opportunities, but with choices. What you do with a little tells money what you do with a lot. This is the test almost everyone fails. They think wealth is built in big moments, a big break, a big win, a big leap. But real wealth is built in unobserved moments, moments where no one claps, moments where no one knows, moments where the decision feels small, but isn't. Do you spend because you're emotional or intentional? Do you save when it's inconvenient or only when it's easy? Do you delay gratification even when no one would blame you for not doing it? Money watches how you behave when there is no pressure, because that's who you really are. And money always rewards identity, not intention. You don't become wealthy because you want discipline. You become wealthy because you practice discipline long enough that it becomes automatic. This is the part no one likes to hear. Your financial future is already predictable, not because of your income, not because of the economy, not because of your background, but because of your patterns. Patterns repeat. Patterns compound. Patterns decide outcomes. Change the pattern. Change the future. That's why the wealthiest people you'll ever meet are calm. They aren't rushed. They aren't frantic. They aren't reactive. They've passed the silent test. They don't need money to prove anything. They don't need spending to feel worthy. They don't need status to feel safe. They've learned the deepest rule of wealth. Control yourself first, and money will follow. And here's the final truth to carry with you. If you can master your impulses, you can master your finances. If you can master your finances, you can master your time. If you can master your time, you can design your life. Wealth is not about more. It's about enough, on your terms. And the moment you choose to live that way, the game changes forever. This chapter isn't the end. It's the checkpoint. From here on, every decision matters, because now you see what's really at stake. Not money, your freedom. And once you taste that, you'll never go back.